Let me tell you something right off the bat. Imagine pouring your soul into a house, every board nailed with your own two hands, every stone dragged up a mountain with nothing but stubbornness and an old pickup, only to wake up one morning and find a letter in the mailbox saying, "Hey, congratulations, your home doesn't belong to you anymore. It's officially ours." Yeah, that happened. And if you think I'm joking, stick around because this is the story of how a bunch of clipboard-carrying HOA suits tried to take my house with nothing but paperwork, forged signatures, and a whole lot of audacity, and how I fought back. It started like any other dry Colorado morning me up before the sun stretching my sore back, the kind of ache you only get from hauling lumber alone for 5 years straight. Coffee brewing in a kitchen. I built myself, windows creaking, this old cabin settling into the dust and pine like it was born here. 5 years of sweat, broken knuckles, and the kind of quiet that only comes from being so far off the grid that even cell service is a rumor. This place was mine. And I'll say it plain, half the reason I inherited this patch of land from my dad was because he wanted to die with nobody telling him what color to paint the door or how short to mow the grass. I always figured the only rules out here were the ones I wrote on the back of a napkin. So when I found that thick gold embossed envelope from the Red Eagle Ridge Homeowners Association, I thought it was junk, but there it was in black and white. Submit a full set of access keys and prepare for inspection of structure number 84. Failure to comply meant fines, enforcement measures, the whole 9 yards. My house, they said structure 84. Which was news to me because, as far as I knew, I was the only thing standing between this land and 1,000 acres of pure silence. I had a notarized deed framed in my office, signed and stamped the week my father passed. The edge of Red Eagle Ridge was a dry creek bed a half-mile south. No shared access, no easement, nothing. I called the number at the bottom of the letter, half expecting to get a confused office worker. Instead, I got a voicemail for some director, Karen Browning. I left a message, tight voice, "I think you made a mistake. My house isn't part of your HOA. I'm not handing over any keys." Hung up, poured more coffee, tried to shake off the feeling that this was something more than a clerical error. But my gut already knew. Couple hours later, I'm at the county recorder's office. I had spent enough time here back when I closed probate to know every smell in the lobby. When the clerk pulled up the parcel map, my blood went cold. Someone had added a thin red line, a neat little loop around my property labeled Project 84 Experimental Zone Unified Parcel Integration, dated 3 years ago. The clerk just shrugged, said it was a zoning overlay, not ownership, not binding unless there's a court order. But still, that little line was enough to get my nerves humming. For the first time in years, I locked my door. 2 days passed, no call back, just another envelope. This one was white, delivered by hand, and shoved in the crack of my front door. Inside, a non-compliance notice, name and all, saying I was violating HOA community standards, threatening legal action fines. I was still reading when a black SUV rolled up to my gate. 3 people stepped out. 2 guys in beige uniforms and a woman in a coral windbreaker and sunglasses holding a clipboard like it was a judge's gavel. Karen Browning herself. They didn't ring the bell. Didn't ask permission. Used a key, a real key, to open the gate and started marching up my driveway. I met them halfway, heart pounding. "You want to tell me what the hell you're doing here?" Karen just pushed her sunglasses up and pointed to her clipboard. "We're here for the scheduled inspection as outlined in your compliance schedule." I laughed. "There is no schedule, lady. You are trespassing." "Where'd you get that key?" She said all access points were supposed to be submitted, so they'd had copies made per fire department policy. I told her that was not a thing, and she just stood there acting like I was a stubborn toddler. "You refuse, we escalate," she said, listing off made-up violations. Non-compliant materials, unauthorized occupancy, obstruction. I cut her off. "Unless you got a badge or a judge with you, turn around and get off my property." She flipped more pages, but I was done. Pulled out my phone and called the sheriff. Deputy Harris showed up. Guy I've known for years. He walked right up, heard Karen's song and dance about filed plans, submitted documentation, structure 84, and just said, "Ma'am, this land isn't part of your development. Never has been. No HOA jurisdiction. Karen insisted they'd filed integration documents, told him to check the registry. Harris just shook his head. You can file whatever you want, doesn't mean it's legal. He told them to leave unless they had a court order. Karen spat. This isn't over. I told her I was about to say the same thing. They left, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the fight had just started. The next morning I dug out every blueprint, every sketch, every file. My dad taught me how to draw plans before I could even ride a bike, and I kept every copy. There was one missing, a digital render I'd had done years back by a freelance guy named Randy. I called him up, met him at a coffee shop, and got the truth after I fired him. He'd sent my floor plans to an HOA consulting firm as a sample. That's how they got my blueprints. So now I had two things: proof that someone had given the HOA my designs, and a sinking feeling that my dad's signature had been forged. My lawyer, Teresa, specialized in fighting HOA fraud. When I told her what was going on, she didn't blink, just said, "Send me everything." Within a day, we had evidence the HOA had filed my plans under their name with a signature from my dead father dated 6 months after he passed. It wasn't just civil fraud, it was criminal. Did I mention that while all this was happening, the HOA kept pushing? One night I caught a guy in a vest trying to pick my lock. 2 others were filming. I called the sheriff again. Harris showed up, kicked them off my land, made it clear that next time it'd be trespassing charges. The HOA tried again, this time with demolition contractors. I woke up to bulldozers and men stringing up caution tape in my yard. They handed me a permit, fake of course, claiming the city had ordered my workshop torn down for setback violations. I blocked their truck, called the sheriff, and stood on my driveway until Harris showed up. Once again, the order was bogus, signed off by a same family that had pushed the zoning overlays. By now, I'd built a dossier big enough to choke a horse. Teresa filed injunctions, cease and desists, and got the city to unseal all the suspicious permits. We found patterned signatures from dead landowners, forged blueprints, and everyone traced back to Karen's late husband's design firm or that shady trap cousin. It all came to a head in court. I'll never forget the first hearing, me and the only blazer I own, Teresa, with our stack of evidence, Karen in powder blue, her lawyer oozing confidence. But our side had receipts, doctored overlays. My father's signature copy-pasted from old paperwork, digital blueprints rebranded as Structure 84. The kicker, a recording from an old neighbor who'd snuck a mic into an HOA meeting. Karen's voice on tape. If he won't surrender it, we bury him in paperwork, just like the lakeside cottages. Judge heard that, and his eyebrows nearly left his face. After that, everything unraveled for the HOA. Board members quit. City officials got subpoenaed. The whole operation was exposed for what it was: a long con to steal land, rezone it, and sell it off. One night, someone even tried torching my workshop, but my new security system caught the whole thing. Guess who it was? An HOA board member. The DA got involved. Suddenly, this wasn't just a civil case, it was fraud, conspiracy, arson. The city's audit showed my case wasn't the first. 5 other families had been pushed out by the same playbook. The verdict: guilty. Civil fraud, conspiracy, unlawful seizure, forgery, and for Karen, attempted arson. They dissolved the HOA, awarded me $3.8 million for damages, and gave Karen 12 years. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. And me, I didn't throw a party. I went home rebuilt. The fence welded a steel plaque that said "Built, Fought For, and Owned Dinelli." Started a blog and a podcast to help other folks fighting the same kind of abuse. Spoke at property rights conferences. My house. They call it Fort Dinelli now, and I sleep easy knowing nobody's ever taken it with paperwork or a bulldozer again. As for Karen, well, she gets to admire my handiwork from her cell, 12 feet by 8 fluorescent lit, no blueprint required. Now you tell me, does this sound like justice or just another story of someone too stubborn to let go? Drop a comment. Tell me if you've ever had to fight for what's yours, or if you think HOAs have just gone too far. Let's hear your take, because out here the only thing more stubborn than a mountain is a man who's got something worth fighting for.